And joining me now is Paula Ramos, MSNBC contributor and author of Defectors, The Rise of the Latino Far Right and What It Means for America. Paula, it is so great to see you. So
Thank you.
I know you probably watched the exact same time I was as Vice President J.D. Vance landed in L.A. today, suggesting that troops need to stay there because things could, quote, flare up again. It seems really open-ended. I'm curious what your reaction to his remarks today was.
I mean, it's simple, no? It's the strategy is to simply continue to create the illusion that we are at war with this enemy, no? The idea, I think, is to sustain, and you and I have talked about this, it's to sustain the very same fear, the very same resentment, the very same grievances that got Trump elected in the first place. And so that visit is supposed to symbolically try to distort the reality on the ground. What does that mean? It means trying to paint this idea that protesters are part of the mob, or that Democratic leaders are socialists, or that migrants are invaders and criminals. And so all of those conspiracy theories are now sort of culminating in that show of force that then, as you said, Antonia, are supposed to paint Trump and J.D. Vance as sort of the saviors, these patriotic saviors of the country that are liberating us. And so it's just theatrics, it's politics. Now, the danger to me, though, is that beyond a show of force, we have to remember that for them, this is an ideological battle, no? They have people like Stephen Miller that believe that they truly need to fight for civilization, that they have to fight to really protect our Western values. And so once you mix the physical show of force with this escalating narrative, with that escalating language, that in and of itself, at least to me, it worries me, because it seems like they're creating the perfect storm for even more violence.
There was this one moment that really stood out to me in the presser where we heard the vice president, he was trying to reference Senator Alex Padilla and called him Jose. Take a listen.
Well, I was hoping Jose Padilla would be here to ask a question, but unfortunately, I guess he decided not to show up because there wasn't the theater. And that's all it is. I think everybody realizes that's what this is. It's pure political theater. These guys show up, they want to be captured on camera doing something.
Pure political theater. And Jose, so, Paula, do you think that was a mistake?
I don't know, but I think that's the point. I think the point, first of all, the Vice President of the United States of America should know who Alex Padilla is. Now, Alex Padilla is the first Latino senator of California. He's an MIT grad. He's the son of Mexican immigrants. J.D. Vance should know who he is, and that in and of itself, we have to say it, that is a racist comment. Now, are we surprised? I'm not. I'm not surprised because J.D. Vance is also the same person that was pushing conspiracy theories about Haitian migrants, right? He is one of the people that really spread this idea that Haitian migrants were eating pets. He's also the same person that said that Haitian migrants that have TPS are illegal aliens. And so I'm not surprised. Now, the problem is that that type of language, that type of racist language then manifests on the ground. And that is precisely why then you have ICE agents that are roaming around our streets and that are literally harassing people, detaining people, stopping people because they look Hispanic, because they think that everyone is Jose. And so that's the danger when those words manifest in violence on the ground.
Paula, in all your years covering immigration, have you ever seen ICE and sort of the broader federal apparatus operate in this way, where we're seeing people completely masked up, sunglasses, hats on, unwilling to identify or explain themselves, even to elected officials, as we just saw here with Brad Lander here in New York City a few days ago? How abnormal is all of this? To what extent have we crossed a red line, you think?
Look, I think mass deportations are not new. Our broken immigration system is not new. Deporting people is not new. It is part of the dark history of this country. It's not new. Now, what is new is that it seems to be that the cruelty is explicit, and that is manifesting in ways that finally are making people notice. I think of some of the conversations that I've had with some Latino voters, including some Latino Trump supporters, who are looking at these images and are looking at the Marines and are looking at National Guard and they're looking at ICE agents, and it reminds them of Venezuela and it reminds them of Cuba and of Nicaragua. And I think that is kind of this breaking point, that through these ICE raids and through immigrants, people are seeing a larger picture that is making them feel very uncomfortable, taking them back to the authoritarian regimes that many immigrants flee from. And I think that's what's starting to at least feel different to me.
Polling on this issue can be really complicated because, on the one hand, there's still a lot of support, and also in Latino communities, for serious border enforcement, border security. But then when you start to ask people follow-up questions about how immigration enforcement has been expanded, activities in the interior of the country, that's where you start to see separation from Trump. I'm curious, to what extent do you think there really is this moment of moral clarity in communities from Los Angeles down to Miami-Dade County? Do you think people are really starting to see this differently than they did just a few months ago during the election?
I think when it comes to some Latinos, you mentioned Miami-Dade County, right? I think one of the differences is that when some Latino voters that supported Donald Trump before the election, when you ask them, do you think that Donald Trump is talking about you? When he talks in such negative ways about immigrants, the answer was no. Most people did not believe that Donald Trump was talking about them when he was referring to Latinos and to immigrants. So I think now it's sinking in, this idea that even U.S. citizens, even Latinos that are U.S. citizens are too being racially profiled. And I think that's sinking in. Now, I think the problem is that moral outrage has to outweigh the anti-immigrant sentiment. And I think in these moments, we tend to think, and look, and this is where I'm perhaps a little bit more skeptical, but I think in these moments we tend to think that remorse will sort of prevail and that people will have second thoughts. And I still want to believe that. But we always still have to come to the reality that one of the things that we learned in this election is how deep and how toxic and how dangerous that anti-immigrant sentiment is. So the question is, for some of those sort of Latino Trump supporters, when they see those images, do they feel resentful towards the Trump administration, or do they feel resentful towards immigrants? And that's where Trumpism comes into play, that it pushes some Latinos to really, really feel resentful by the fact that they are being lumped into this group with other immigrants. And that, I think, is where we have to really understand the nuance and listen.
It's going to be fascinating to see how attitudes shift in the coming months. You and I both covered the family separation crisis, and we remember the moral outrage, the absolute outrage that was shared by so many. And it feels like we should be back in one of those moments, but we are not quite yet. Paula, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Your insight is always incredible.
Thank you, Antonia.